Hello and welcome to Third Stringers Podcast, a show about tech and sports and how technology is revolutionizing all the major sports as well as health and fitness. You can find this episode from your podcast service of choice. I'm your host, Paul Delangletto, editor of Tech and Sports. You can find great tech and sports content on our website, itbusiness.ca. From there, click on the Sports tab. With me here today is, as always, the big Radu, Alex Radu, who is, by the way, super excited over Lonzo Ball, the second overall NBA draft pick for the Los Angeles Lakers, burning up the Summer League. We'll see what happens when... What's that?
The big baller brand, everyone.
Okay.
Hype
Well, we'll see what happens when he faces real players who get paid to slap these punks around. Right next to me is the Carlton kid, Mandy Kovacs, who's in the house. Mandy, are you stressing over the fact that the LPGA will be mandating a dress code policy for their golfers?
Yeah, that's stupid.
Okay, let's move on from there.
Hashtag hot take.
Super hot take.
Okay, we have a power pack lineup for you today, starting with golf. Mandy has a great story about an Uber system for golf caddies. Alex has a piece on the NBA and Fitbit, and I'll have a story about the Moneyball team at the Tour de France. This week's debate is going to be on big data in boxing and how it relates to the upcoming Conor McGregor, Floyd Money Mayweather fight August 26th. And don't forget, we have incredibly hard trivia. So sit back and don't panic because the third stringers are coming into the game. Okay, guys, you did really well last week getting the trivia question right, much to my surprise and chagrin. So this week, I thought we'd just switch it up a bit, make it a little bit more challenging for the both of you. And since we're going to be talking about big data and fighting or boxing, the questions are going to be about boxer versus wrestler matches over time. So I did a little digging. I came up with a few. So what I think here is I'm going to pit Mandy against Alex. So I'm going to name the fight, and you tell me who the winner is or what the result is. And whoever gets the most right is the winner. Sound good?
It's going to be a disaster, but okay. Let's
All
do
right.
it.
First fight. Chuck the Bayonne Bleeder versus Andre the Giant, Shea Stadium, 1976. Andre
the Giant.
Not Andre the Giant.
Okay, Andre the Giant in a countout. You 1-0 Mandy. Muhammad Ali versus Antonio Inoki, the Tokyo Dome, 1976.
Muhammad Ali.
Okay, the other one.
Antonio Inoki. You're both wrong. It ended up in a draw. Scott Ledoux versus the living legend Larry Zbyszko, the Metrodome, 1986.
I mean, a guy that has the living legend in his own name, has he not win?
Okay, so she's going with the wrestler.
I'll go with the boxer.
And the boxer did win. Okay, so it's 1-1. Okay, also, so Antonio Inoki had a few of these matches. He fought a guy who actually beat Muhammad Ali in the 70s, Leon Spinks, in 1986 in the Tokyo Dome. What do you think happened there?
I'm going to go with Leon.
Leon.
Okay.
So he's going with the boxer.
I'll go with the other one.
You're going to, okay, Antonio Inoki pinned him in the 8th round. So it's 2-1 Mandy.
Cool.
All right, so I put in a couple of WrestleMania matches.
Oh, God.
This first one is a legit fight that they had in WrestleMania 15, 1995.
Are you saying that every WrestleMania fight is not legit?
I was going to say, are any of them actually legitimate?
But this one, which was a boxer versus wrestler, was legit.
Okay.
Eric Butterbean Etch versus Bart Gunn.
God, they don't make names like they used to.
That's amazing. Butterbean.
Yes.
I would love to know the story behind that.
Well, you can look it up on WWE.com. So what do you think?
I'll go with the wrestler.
He's going with the wrestler.
I'll do the other one.
This match lasted, I think, 36 seconds, Butterbean the winner.
Woo.
So 3-1 for Mandy.
Damn.
So you need these next two to tie.
Oh, no.
So this was not a legit match. It was a phony match in WrestleMania 24. But since Floyd Money Mayweather is part of our main story today, I thought I'd bring it up. Floyd Money Mayweather versus The Big Show at WrestleMania 24. Do you guys remember that? It happened in 2008.
I do.
I don't.
I mean, I remember the fight. I don't remember who won.
This is a good one for Alex since he's actually watched it.
Well, then you can pick first then, if you remember.
God, I want to say the Big Show, but I think it was Mayweather.
Mayweather, you going with the Big Show?
Sure.
Okay, Mayweather did win with a knockout. Okay, so it's 3-2. 2010 TD Boston Garden, James Lights Out Tony versus Randy Couture.
Lights out.
Well, I kind of agree with Mandy.
So you think the Lights Out won? Randy Couture won, so you're both wrong.
Oh, I thought
So 3-2 for Mandy.
Win then. Woo! Do I get a prize?
You get my ever-loving devotion.
I love it.
Okay. Mandy, talk to me about Uber caddies for golf.
Yeah, so I mean, I feel like we hear a lot about apps kind of taking on the Uber model of on-demand type of stuff. But so this one is for the golf industry. And it's an app called Looper, and it was developed in Washington, D.C. And basically its mission is to bring back caddies to the game of golf. I spoke with its founder and CEO, David Cavosa, today, and he was telling me that, I mean, so many people believe that the golf cart killed the caddy business. So this app is basically for those people or for golfers who think that the traditional caddy systems are too expensive. So, I mean, you can basically download this app for free on the App Store and Google Play, and you can rent caddies with it.
So is it going to work similar to the way Uber taxis or car services work? Where, you look at the location and, it could be $10 or $20 if it's, really busy. How's it going to work?
I don't think there's like busy times or anything, but yeah, you can essentially open this app and there are 4 different, I guess, experience levels for caddies. So the first one is the junior looper it's essentially teenagers doing this as like a summer job. So they can't really help strategy-wise. They just basically carry the bag around. And then you have one level up from that that's just your regular looper, which has a bit more experience. They might be like college level, and they might be able to help with some sort of tips. And then you have the pro loopers who are experienced. They probably do this as a living or at least used to, so they can give you advice, guidance about whatever course you're on. And then there's also 4 loopers who are mainly for events and big groups, and they can drive carts if you do have to rent one and whatnot.
I think that's the biggest benefit of this, the fact that these guys would know the course inside and out. Because I think that's the most challenging part. When you go to a golf course, you don't know the layout of the land. These guys have played it multiple times that can tell you, you know what? It's a dog leg right. You should use a 7.
Exactly.
Right? This is your approach. Yada, yada, yada. It'll improve your game.
So how much is it going to cost?
Well, so each level costs a different amount. So, I mean, a junior looper, the base price is $20 American. But I mean, if you want to go for a pro looper, a pro caddy that knows what they're doing, and you want them to carry 2 bags, maybe that can cost you up to $140. That, of course, doesn't include tip, and, I mean, caddies really like their tips, so that I'm sure that will add a significant amount, but, I mean, that's just the way the game is. And then, so for golf courses, it actually doesn't cost them anything at all to sign up for Looper. You just give them a call, and they basically set up everything for you. And they only ask golf courses to market the app a little bit to their members, but it doesn't cost anything for them to sign up and put their course on the Looper registry.
So you got me convinced. Where do I get this app?
So right now it is only in the States. As I mentioned earlier, it started in Washington, D.C., but it's expanded to 6 states. So that includes California, Florida, Maryland, Ohio, Pennsylvania, South Carolina, and Virginia. But, I mean, we're based in Canada, so of course I had to ask the CEO about when they think about moving north of the border. And he said that when they first started a year ago, he actually received a call from the presidents of the National Golf Course Owners Association of Canada, who basically loved the idea. They really wanted it there. They really want to bring back caddies to golf courses in Canada, and he was super excited about it. And Looper actually kind of turned them down, because they said that they're still working on the operating model and, figuring things out. And I mean, as we know in the tech industry, startups that scale up really quickly burn out really fast, usually. So I think taking the side of caution is actually a really good thing. But he does say that they do expect to expand into Canada, and it'll probably happen next spring or spring 2019 at the very latest.
All right. Very good. And the big question is, since the caddy community is shrinking over the years, where are they going to get their caddies from?
Well, it's also kind of cool because he was saying that pretty much anyone can sign up to be a caddy as long as they're 14 and older. They just sign up online. They complete a video-based training course and test that really is impossible to fail. And then once they do that, they can attend an in-person orientation session at a local golf course that's in the Looper system. Then they're approved and they're ready to be hired.
So basically they're looking for live bodies.
Exactly.
Awesome.
They're looking for as many people as possible.
All right, let's go to Fitbit and the NBA. Alex, take it away.
Yeah, so in the NBA, they opened jersey sponsorships this offseason for a 3-year pilot period.
A very contentious issue, I believe.
Yep.
Yeah, well, it's only going to make everyone money, so it's not going away.
Right.
So what's interesting here is that it's not just your simple sponsorship in a lot of cases. So what Fitbit is doing is they have sponsored the Minnesota Timberwolves. So you're going to start to see Fitbit patches that are about 2 inches wide on the jerseys this coming season. But really, it's more of a partnership than it is a sponsorship. So what they're doing now Fitbit is the overall sponsor of not just the Timberwolves, but the G League, formerly the D League, associate the Iowa Wolves, as well as the WNBA's Minnesota Lynx. So this means all the athletes and everybody in the organization itself will also have Fitbits, have access to the devices.
Now, will they have the Fitbit sensor embedded in the jersey?
No. So basically what's happening is that they're getting wearable devices. So the G League team actually, I believe, will be able to wear like a Fitbit on their wrist while they're playing.
Oh, okay.
But in the NBA?
The NBA, no.
No? Okay.
So the NBA does not allow for wearables. And when I was speaking to Tim Rosa, the CMO of Fitbit, he actually, when talking about that, he was like, maybe the Fitbit sensor on the wrist isn't exactly the greatest place in basketball for a sensor, which I kind of agree with. Just based on how all these sensors, use all these arm motions and taking shots and stuff, it's a little more confusing than. So they're all still working out on sensors in the NBA, so it's not going to be those players yet. But where it could go for players is sleep tracking. So Fitbit is now the official sleep tracker of the Minnesota Timberwolves. Wow. Which doesn't sound like that exciting, but you have guys like Zach LaVine, who is a former Timberwolf, now a Chicago Bull. He was traded in the blockbuster Jimmy Butler trade. So he tore his ACL last season, and during his recovery, he was using a Fitbit, and specifically to track his sleep patterns at night, which was something that he commented on and was actually the thing that stood out for him the most. Because now we live in an age where every athlete can track every single part of their life and try and maximize it to extend their career. So why not also do that when it comes to sleep?
Yeah, I mean, we did a story on Tech and Sports just last year about the Notre Dame football club tracking their sleep patterns and learning that they needed all these new pillows, for example, because of how they looked at the data that they got from players' sleep patterns. So it was very interesting.
Well, so I wanted to know, though, is it just these players that are getting the devices?
Yeah, so it's not just the players. So everyone in both staffs of all these organizations is going to have access to a Fitbit. It's part of their corporate wellness program, which they've been doing with other corporations just throughout North America for the last little bit, and it's just to promote healthy eating, a healthy lifestyle, etc. And they're even trying to take it to the fans as well. So naturally, because it is a sponsorship, you are going to see Fitbit logos all over the Target Center when the renovations in the building are done before the season. And they're trying to integrate the concession stands with the Fitbit app. So if you're at the store, if you're at a game, you buy something, maybe a burger, and you have a Fitbit, it'll automatically translate into your Fitbit app to tell you how many calories, etc.
That's so cool.
That is really cool.
And they're also trying to do stuff, just more engaging stuff, like get involved with community events, also show Timberwolf player stats and highlights through the Fitbit app, and then also give fans Fitbit challenges, because if you've ever been on the Fitbit app, you can take a look at challenges, and there are going to be Timberwolf-specific challenges as well. So it could be something like, Jimmy Butler ran this much this week. We dare you.
Can you match it? Right.
Stuff like that.
That's actually really cool.
So, yeah. So that's what makes it a little more interesting. It's like, I know Goodyear, for instance, is sponsoring the Cavaliers, and I believe at that point that's just a strict sponsorship jersey ad.
Right.
But it's not just a jersey ad. It's also a technological innovation partnership. And that's why they chose the Timberwolves, because the Timberwolves were one of about 4 to 7 teams who were really trying to get Fitbit on board. But their pitch was just they are looking not just for a sponsorship. They want to collaborate. They want to really work on innovation in technology.
So an integrated strategy for Fitbit. Awesome.
Yeah. Like, I'm not a fan of those jersey advertisements, but I mean, if they're going beyond just the advertisement on the jersey, then there's got to be some benefit to it.
Yeah, especially since it's unavoidable anyways. So as long this is at least the best case scenario. I think.
That's fair.
Well, let's hope it doesn't enter into the NHL and the NFL or Major League Baseball. All right, my story is, we all know we're covering the Tour de France on Tech and Sports, and Dimension Data is very kind enough to provide us with a lot of up-to-the-minute data analytics from the sensors on the bikes and around the course itself. And it looks like some of this analytics is being used to win races. Now, Chris Froome is still wearing the yellow jersey, but Frenchman Lilian Calmejean, I know I'm butchering his name, sorry Lilian, won stage 8 of the Tour in a big upset. So Calmejean is a rider for the Direct Energy team. The Direct Energy team qualified as a wild card for this year's Tour by the race organizer, which to me sounds really crazy if you look at it, because the vast majority of the teams competing in the Tour are from the Union Cycliste Internationale world teams. So they basically have their own league, like the NHL and the NFL. So Direct Energy would be like the equivalent of the CFL's Hamilton Tiger Cats entering the NFL Super Bowl playoffs and winning their first game. Because the last time Direct Energy rider won a stage was 7 years ago. So stage 8, just a little background, is considered a very hilly section. And with 25 kilometers to go, Calmejean made his break for the lead and ended up with only one rider chasing him. By winning, he captured the coveted polka dot jersey as the mountain climbing champion. And it's the second most prized jersey after yellow, because by wearing the polka dot jersey, the rider is considered the king of the mountains. So what made Calmejean's victory even more remarkable is that the budget for Direct Energy team, the entire team, is the same as Chris Froome's salary for Team Sky, 3 million English pounds. So how did they do that? Direct Energy team is known in cycling as being the Moneyball team, and Calmejean made his move all based on data. He was averaging 20.70 kilometers per hour, and he was facing a punishing 11.7 kilometer climb with an average gradient of 6.4%. And he covered that stretch, and can you guess? 20.7 kilometers per hour, what he averages normally. So essentially, he knew when to make his move, and he knew he would have the ability enough to fend off the rest of the racers and win. So I thought it was a very, very compelling story.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I hate cycling, so I mean, I can appreciate how much, I guess, strength and talent that actually takes. But I have a question for you, though.
Sure.
Because, I mean, Dimension Data also has a team in the race. So, I mean, isn't that kind of a conflict of interest?
I have an answer there.
Go ahead.
So when I was speaking also with Dimension Data a couple weeks ago, and on the last podcast, that was my story as well. Dimension data is all for the fans and for broadcasters and all that they're putting out there. So all the teams are free to look at it. But when it comes to the training and the race themselves, Deloitte actually is providing all these types of statistics to these trainers because each team has a car as well as I'm very sure it's very easy for them to kind of learn these stats just through an earpiece or something throughout the match as well. So Deloitte is actually the ones providing that data behind the scenes.
Okay, that's better.
I think it's a wonderful story. I think they want to promote themselves as a technology provider, right? And it's their first time, I think, Alex, correct me if I'm wrong, it's the first time in the race themselves with a team.
Yeah, the GPS trackers, this is the first year they're doing it.
Yeah. So I think they want to prove that, you can base decisions on data tracked from IoT, captured from IoT sensors. And even if you're Team Sky with a big budget, or you're, the Minnow, Direct Energy, it will help you win races. And that's what this data is all about anyway. So I had no problem with it, actually, Mandy.
No, that's fair. I didn't say there was a problem. I just wanted to flag it up just in case.
All right, let's move to our debate section. And unless you were hiding under a rock, champion boxer Floyd Money Mayweather is going to face the Ultimate Fighting champion, the notorious Conor McGregor, in Las Vegas on August 26th. And while most people, like myself, figure this to be a mismatch, I wanted to look at the data to see if I can find some answers to see if there's at least a puncher's chance for Conor McGregor. Now, boxing is a very crude sport, and I didn't really think that big data could really be a factor. But I looked up CompuBox, which is a computerized scoring system that tracks punches thrown, landed, and even power punches, tracking the effectiveness of those shots. I thought it might gain some insight with looking at those numbers. But what I found even more fascinating is that CompuBox is a really old piece of software technology. It was developed in 1985.
God.
And I wondered if it was done on a floppy disk. But here's what they came up with when they looked at Floyd Mayweather's last 9 fights, which includes victories over very famous boxers like Manny Pacquiao, Canelo Alvarez, Miguel Cotto, and Sugar Shane Mosley. Now, the Mosley fight in particular is very interesting because MMA fans and UFC fans are all saying that, hey, don't count out McGregor because, he has punching power in both hands and he has at least a puncher's chance of beating Mayweather. However, this particular fight really showed that Mayweather has a very good chin because Mosley hit him with a wicked right hand right to the jaw that rocked his world, and he just shook it off and continued. So CompuBox ranks Mayweather as the best active fighter with an average connect rate of 46%. And Alex, I think you're going to like this. If he was an NBA point guard shooting 3-pointers, he would be better than Steph Curry, who's at 44%. To go down the list, the only other fighter who is even in the same category with that kind of connect rate is Andre, the son of God Ward, and he's roughly in the mid-30s. So CompuBox also tracks fighters getting hit, and guess what? Mayweather is regarded as the best defensive fighter in history. Now, they've only been keeping stats since the 90s. So I also took a look at CompuBox's stats for the last 10 Conor McGregor fights.
Oh, so they do cover the MMA?
They don't cover the MMA, but I guess because of this oddity, this clashing of styles, they thought they would do that, and I found that kind of interesting. So they had to sort of alter the way they collect the data because it's not, punches, because there's kicking, there's wrestling, there's grappling holds, there's knees to the head, all this sort of stuff. And McGregor lands, they called it significant strikes landed per minute, and he does it 5.82% every minute. So that's just 6 punches, but his striking accuracy is very good at 47%. Strikes to the head were 45%, strikes to the body was 60%. In terms of defense, 41% for headshots, and he was really poor in body shots, 64%. Another stat that really fascinated me was in the last 10 McGregor fights, and UFC fights are 5 rounds, 5 minutes per round. He's only gone the distance once, and that was in the rematch with Nate Diaz. Nate Diaz is the only fighter to defeat McGregor when he got him in the rear naked choke in the second round of their first fight. McGregor was forced to tap out or else he would be unconscious.
I remember that.
Yeah. So when you analyze all these stats, what you have here is 2 counterpunchers. So McGregor, even though in all the press conferences and media hype is saying he's going to be ferocious and he's going to go on an all-out attack, but he never does that. He never attacks at all. He only averages 42 strikes per round. And remember, that's a 5-minute round as opposed to a 3-minute boxing round. And the average there is 75 to 80 punches thrown. So this could be a really boring fight where you have 2 fighters basically using the same strategy, which is waiting for the other person to strike first. And that's what I found by looking at the CompuBox.
Which is interesting
data.
because that is definitely not how they're hyping up this fight.
No,
it's supposed to be very aggressive, very testosterone fueled.
They're both very good at press conferences.
Yes, they certainly
That is
are
true.
at that. And I'm sure the pay-per-view buy rate is going through the roof already.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they came to Toronto, so woo.
They did, yeah, which is an MMA town, not a real boxing town, although it has a history of a boxing town back in the 60s. Muhammad Ali did fight here once, I believe, or twice. So, I mean, most people would think that McGregor has no chance. Do any of you two guys think that he has a chance?
Yeah, I do. Well, I mean, I think it's a really interesting question of how could Conor McGregor win, especially given all the stats that you just explained. And I mean, analytics have become such a big part of sports over the last couple years, and for the most part, I've been on that team. Like, a lot of people say that it takes away passion from the games and whatnot, but I mean, I always think that they kind of paint a more detailed picture. But, so with that being said, though, I don't really think that stats tell the whole story here. And this kind of goes back to, that BS buzz phrase that we hear called compete level so often in hockey. But I mean, honestly, it is a thing. And I think Conor McGregor is one of the most passionate guys I've ever seen, both when he's speaking normally or at press conferences trying to hype up this fight, or just when he's fighting in general. So, I mean, I think hearing all this stuff about how he stands no chance, he's going to be knocked out every round, I think that must be really firing him up inside. So, I mean, I don't think you can count him out. Not to mention the fact that he is a very skilled MMA fighter. Like, we can't forget that. And the MMA skills that you need to compete in a UFC fight are very translatable to boxing, I think. Like, he knows how to throw a punch. He may not be the most technically accurate person in the world, and I don't think you can become a boxing master in just a couple months, but I don't think you can really count out that base skill that kind of gives him.
And let me back up this argument a little bit, okay? Because
my argument or your argument?
Yours.
Cool.
Because if you look at the tail of the tape, McGregor's 5'9". Mm-hmm. He's 170 pounds, even though this fight will be fought at around 155.
Yeah.
His reach is 74. Compared that to Mayweather, who's 41 years old. McGregor's 28, going to be 29. Yes. His reach is 72, and he's a lot shorter too, and he's a lot older. And always when you look at, a much younger fighter will always beat a much older fighter. But in this case, you're not looking at an apples and apples comparison. You're looking at apples and oranges, although they have sort of the similar skill sets. Mm-hmm. But those are slight advantages to McGregor. And yes, if he has the distance to throw a punch, he has punching power in both fists, and that would definitely help him out. I still don't think it's going to happen because you have to catch him to hit him.
Right.
Alex.
Yeah, I kind of agree with Mandy that if anyone is going, if like McGregor is, like, I think there is a chance that McGregor can surprise everyone. Like, I wouldn't, like, if McGregor does somehow win, I don't think he's going to shock the world. Mm-hmm. I think it's an upset, but it's not like the 30th seed beating the first seed. It's more of like the 16th seed beating the first seed or something like that.
This would be like Leicester City winning the EPL. I'm sorry. I think it would be.
Which is still a huge shock.
Yeah.
But it's not like if you were following that season, it's not like it's all of a sudden you're like, oh my God, I can't believe this happened or something like that.
Right.
I don't know. But so I was looking at stats online that actually, though, show that I think that McGregor does got a really tough chance because basically in counting strikes landed in a fight. So in MMA, overall, strikes landed in a fight, it's about 250 plus. Boxing, 600 plus. Combined total punches thrown in a round, in MMA, it's 200, boxing, 450. And then in a total fight, it's MMA 750 and boxing 1750. So a boxer's output is more than twice of an MMA fighter. So this means that McGregor is really going to have to condition his arms because it's just a different technique to be able to throw that many punches in that amount of time. And, there's that saying of, it takes 10,000 hours to master something. I don't believe 10,000 hours have passed since he decided to do this. So while I bet Conor McGregor has put the maximum amount of time possible, you can't just train your body, your arms, your muscles to do something new all of a sudden. And this is the point I saw online was an 800-meter champ can't compete against the 1,500-meter champ in the 1,500-meter race And it's the same vice versa. If Mayweather were to fight in the UFC ring, he'd be out in 5 minutes.
That's right.
Yeah.
So that's I think the point too. We have to see right here. Mayweather knows how to fight. He knows how to move his arms. He knows how to match the style of boxing. McGregor, this is his first match. For all, like, I would be almost as shocked of him winning as him getting knocked out in the first round.
Yeah, you bring up a good point about the number of punches thrown. I think the biggest issue here is going to be endurance for Conor McGregor. It's not going to be about technical fighting. It's not going to be about who boxes and who does MMA full time. I think it's going to be about whether Conor McGregor can actually last all the rounds and with enough stamina, He can start off strong. I think if he does win any rounds, it'll definitely be the early ones, and then he might fade. I mean, that's the biggest thing for me.
There's another point, too.
Yeah.
McGregor's used to 4-ounce gloves, and he's used their gloves in this fight are double that amount of weight.
Yeah, 10-ounce gloves, which would diminish his punching power.
So not only does he have to strengthen his arms to punch more than he normally does by a whole lot, he also is going to be using heavier gloves. So again, it's a lot of. If anyone can do it, I think it's McGregor.
I agree.
I agree. If anybody can do it, it's Conor McGregor.
Yeah.
But I think it's an uphill climb.
And when you look at the stats, and honestly, like, you wouldn't think it, but I think boxing is a really good way to use data and try and predict a winner.
Yeah.
Considering when it comes, like, if you're gambling on this match, take a look at some of the stats online.
And I think it'll show you that McGregor will be winning. Mayweather will be winning. Almost a faux pas there. Yeah. Well, that was a great debate. Thanks a lot, Mandy and Alex. And that's all the time we have for this edition of Third Stringers. We're going to catch you later.